So in this video, I would like to introduce you to an update that will make your rigging super efficient and will reduce the time you spend on rigging the face dramatically. So in the latest tutorial series about rigging the eyes, we've covered guiding the eyelids and making use of the skin loop blending methods that will automate the skin weighting for the eyelids. However, this tutorial series still ended up at about 2 hours, and in this video we will cover the entire process in just about 10 minutes. So let me show you what this update is all about. First, we're gonna create our eyes component group and go to the settings. So you will notice on this update that there are quite many new attributes, which are basically edge loop inputs. So we define the eyelids topology by plugging all of these edge loops, and I will just load the guide component definition that I saved earlier and show you what this is all about. So these are the final settings for the eyelids, and you will notice that there are additional buttons to plug in an edge loop selection, or you can also select them here using this button here. So let me just go to the gray shaded view. So you can see here the border edge loop is this one. There's an outer border edge loop for marking the border eyelid, also the inner one, the edge loop for the outer line, same for the inner line in case there's an extra strip in the model that wraps the eyeball, and also the outermost edge loop which connects to the brow, and pretty much the same for the lower lid. And we also need to plug in the eyeball and sclera or cornea geometries, as well as the pupil center vertex and the pupil edge loop, iris inner edge loop, iris outer edge loop, and the eyeball outer edge loop, which blends to the iris, and also the back vertex. So all of these inputs will guarantee automatic guiding and also automating the entire skin loop blending that has been covered in the previous videos. So first I'm going to build the guide. So this has created the guide nodes in the origin with the default locations, and we can now make use of the automatic guiding alignment. And there are two options: align joints to vertices by curve or snap joints to vertices. So let me just hit the default option. So this is aligning the guides and also aligning the joint guides to the closest vertices of the edge loop. Now there's this option which will also snap the vertices to the joints. As you see, the model is not perfectly aligned to the curve, and we have this option to snap the joints as well, which will simply offset the joints. However, this option will not be just as precise enough, so the result will still look not perfectly clean. If you take a look here, there's still a little bit of a wonky shape here. So the offsets have not really been removed, only the joints have been snapped. So therefore, I recommend to use the default option, just aligning the joints to the vertices, and while still being constrained on the path, and instead use the option snap model to vertices. So this option will actually snap the model, the edge loop in the model, to those joints and will remove all unwanted gaps and intersections. And this will return to a perfectly clean eyelid deformation. So let me build the rig, but first load the shape settings for the guides. So remember, the guide shapes are defined in the guide and can be shared between characters. So these shapes have been loaded. Also remember, you can select all of these shapes and scale them in one go if you want. There's no extra building step needed. Everything is happening inside the guide and will be respected on rig build. So now let's build the rig. So this has built the rig with the joints applied. So some basic skinning is in place. And we will now make use of the automatic skin loop blending method. So we again select the eye component group and just hit create skin weights by guide settings. So this will remove all existing weights of the eyelids and then perform all the skin loop blendings. So all of the manual work that, or let's say half automated manual work that was covered in the last tutorial series about rigging the eyes is now fully automated based on the edge loop topology inputs in the guide settings. So with this result, we have a perfectly clean deformation. Let me just simply adjust the corner influence attribute here, which is actually a rig setting that I could also just load. So here you can see a perfectly clean eyelid line. So if we compare to the previous result, you can see the difference. Here we have a very perfect straight line, and here we still have a little bit of a wonky shape due to the joint offsets. So the model has been updated to fix these minor gaps and intersections, and we can save this model and incorporate it into the model build step and rebuild the entire rig. Also, the iris and pupil have been skinned automatically based on the edge loop inputs. And also in this update we have the eyelid sealing enabled. So if we go to the blink, you can see due to the topology there's still a little bit of a gap. If there were more edge loops, this gap would not even happen in the first place, but we also have the lid sealing. So the lid sealing and a little bit of more overlap here, we will get rid of the gap entirely, and the topology will match perfectly. So I will show you the difference. Sealing off and sealing enabled. So the sealing will not only remove the gaps but also match the vertices perfectly. And also, if the animator doesn't use the blink attribute, the sealing also works when animating the eyelids individually. So the eyelids even push each other due to the sealing. There are some attributes to enable the sealing based on distance. So here the sealing will hit in slightly earlier and will make a bit smoother interpolation. And we can also define an offset where the sealing is fully applied. So if we increase this, the sealing will actually happen a little bit sooner. I recommend to keep this a pretty low value. So I hope you enjoyed this update, and see you in the next video where we will cover the mouth rigging. Thank you.